Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, Patrick.
Good evening, Jurgen.
Hi, Patrick. Hi to the audience.
Good evening,
Yeah,
everybody.
We've got
Hi,
a whole
Patrick.
lot of names popping up on screen, which is fantastic because we're talking about a very interesting topic tonight. Most of us, Clint, that don't look so happy, are possibly too young to know these guys.
There's a few I know. One I grew up in front of.
There's one specific person that we want to start this program off with tonight, and the photograph in the background you'll see is a very dusty scene, but two very interesting people at the head of the field there, namely Sarel van der Merwe in the Abel de Olivier or Glenwood Motors GTV 2.5, and Tony Viana in the BP 535 BMW. And that event is actually happening on a brand new tarmac surface, even though it doesn't look like it. That was in May 1982, and it was the opening event of the Tony Rist Raceway in, nearby Windhoek in Namibia. And the man who created it is with us tonight, which I find phenomenal, and it's great to have him on the program tonight. So we're going to start off with the man of the moment. It's the Tony Rist Raceway, and we're going to chat to that man there, Tony Rist. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, everybody that's listening, but especially to all these guys around here that I can see that's with us on the program. It's great to be amongst all you guys. Thank you.
We discussed this a little bit earlier, but we need to do that for the benefit of the listeners all over now. There's a few things that bother me about this whole idea of building a racetrack. You guys had a circuit in Swakop, which is on a salt surface. Then you had this brainwave of creating a circuit for the Windhoek Motor Club without them even knowing about it. I know you had some assistance from Llewellyn Anthony in the background. Unfortunately, he can't join us tonight. But take us through those initial steps. You got this brainwave. Why would you create so much work for yourself?
Yes, that's a question I'll ask myself a lot of times. But at that time, as you say, we were racing at the last salt track in the world. I think there was one in Mexico, but it was very expensive to fix that track every time. And I was chairman at that time of the Windhoek Motor Club. And it just so happens that we just couldn't afford to get the track rebuilt every time because it needed rebuilding every time. New salt and gypsum and so on that they mixed into it. And of course, and then, when we get there, the track didn't last because, as the other people that raced there like Sarel van der Merwe, you find out in the morning it was as slippery as anything. In the afternoon, it's hard as anything. And then late in the afternoon, if you get onto for the last race, it's as slippery as anything. So it was really a challenge to race there, and I still miss that. I think it was a fantastic experience to race there. But the thing is that we stood in a position where we had very few competitors because of the distance going there, and also because of the costs involved. Because there you've got to pay for your where you stay, and that type of thing. And of course, if a car breaks, you just don't go into Windhoek quickly. And practice time was the previous day for about an hour or whatever, if you can. So as chairman, I was sort of responsible to see that the sport was going on. And I was involved in civil engineering at that time. Actually, the bypass, Windhoek bypass, I was involved in that, and I knew the contractor well, of course, because I was one of the REs there. And I then went to the municipality, which I had a lot of dealings with in that position, and I started finding out where can we build a racetrack. And actually, I wanted them to build it, but of course, that was wishful thinking. But the thing is, they gave us two options, and the best one of the two was this option, which was right next to where the old stockout track was at that time. And we used to race stockouts, a lot, every month at that time. And it was great, but it was gravel, and we had to build this thing. And I started looking around. I went to Total, which was our main sponsor then for most of the sport, most of motorsport in this country. In any case, at that time, Gerry Jacobs, the CEO there, said, "Okay, fine, he'll help me with finances." And I went, and I'm talking about the biggest sponsorship was 30,000 rand, at that time. And I went around to different people, and of course we got some money together. The committee that I had at that time, which was a great couple of guys, some of them still with us, and which was great. But they all thought it was sort of wishful thinking. And when I got everything together, I started designing the track there according to the contours that was available. That's you couldn't do much. Otherwise you have to do cuttings and blasts and whatever, and it's just too costly. So what was available and so on, I designed all that with guys working with me together. We got this thing going, and the contractor, which was Bon Roads at that time, Dawie was the boss, and he said, "Okay, I can use the machines." So when I got off in the afternoons, when we locked up and went home, I filled up all the machines on his cost, of course, and then drove it out to the racetrack, which was 6 kilometers away, and with a grader and with a bulldozer and whatever, tire dozers, not bulldozers, not track dozers. But and I started building this thing. That was it. But when I had everything ready to the design was done, and with the help of people that worked with me. And I went to the clubhouse, which was still there in the old Kaiser Street at the bottom, near the Taurus School. In any case, and the old club sat there, and I said, "Okay, we're going to build a track," and Ronnie Adams, I'll never forget it. He got up and he said, "You still believe in Father Christmas?" And I said, "You know what? I don't, but I'll tell you what. I invite all of you to come out for a braai there at that point, which is right next to the area where the stockout track is, and then we can have a nice braai and we can discuss it, and if you." Yeah, and it's we all got there, and we started with a fire and so on. And I said, "Okay, fine, all of you together here now," and most of the club members were there. I said, "If you look now, just inside the bushes, because there was a lot of bushes there," and I said, "You'll see there's a dozer standing there. That is Sonic's bend, which is now, of course, the one at the bottom where the sharpest bend. I mean, Jurgen still remembers Sonic's bend." So, which I said, there it stands, and that's what's going to be. And then I took out the plans for the track, and I showed it to them, and I said, "This is what we're going to build." And they didn't believe me, but some of the guys helped. Yes, I battled to get, as nowadays as well. Club members is good club members as long as they can race and so on. But if they got to help, and I see Richard is, shaking his head. Yes, he knows what I'm talking about. But I mean, everybody knows about it. If you tell the club members we're going to build the track, nobody pitches up. So I had guys like Gypsy Gruer helped me a lot, and Obas Grobler, which is not, he's not in any way involved in motorsport anymore. But guys like that, whenever the dozer broke, I got an Obas Grobler out there and said, "Come and fix it up. It's got to be back on site the next morning," that type of thing. Or in the weekends I had it as well. But it went well. We had a lot of problems and a lot of things, and it cost a lot. My wife, with the kids in the back of the station wagon, used to drive behind us so that we can have light on the track when we were working on it, And so yes, it was a family thing, And, it was great. But eventually we got it built, but the time ran out and the money as well. What you see there is the sand that we just speaking about. It's the track was not finished yet, and the chips was on it. If you know about building the track, we didn't put up the final layer yet, so we had to protect the bottom, and we just filled up with sand, and that's why it went like that, and that's why Sarel van der Merwe couldn't finish the last race, because he had a stone through his radiator, and he was out at the last race. But yeah, that was it, But even the old mayor of Windhoek at that time, Marius, he was there as well, and it was dusty that day. The wind was blowing, and he said, if you can't take this wind and this dust, you're not a southwesterner, So then you don't belong here. But yeah, that's basically how we build it and why we build it. Afterwards, I was sometimes sorry that I built it, because whenever there was a fight there or whatever, I was called, and it was my fault, of course. And when we lost the only marshal that ever, killed on the track, I was even charged, and they dropped the charges, of course. But I mean, I was a competitor that day, but it happened, But the good thing is, it was the love of the sport, And there's a lot of people with a love of the sport. Not all of them has got a chance that I had. It's not because I'm this or that special guy. It's just I had the opportunity to build it and the means to do it, which maybe some other people didn't have at that time. So, yeah, that's it.
Well, I will say that you are deservedly also the name associated with the track, and always been since that meeting in May 1982. And on top of it, I must add this for the benefit of the listeners, as almost an unknown there at the time to the outsiders, which were us in South Africa. You had Sarel van der Merwe and Tony Verheana there present for the opening event, and you kicked their butt because they didn't finish. You won the event overall. So that's serious bragging rights. You go and win the first event at a circuit named after you.
All the honor to my Father in heaven. That, and it was luck, as far as I'm concerned. One overall. But yeah, I mean, those guys just made that day. I mean, Sarel van der Merwe makes any day, And a horse, Tony Verheana, we called him a horsey. It was good to have these guys here, And it was a nice day, I believe so. I mean, I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I want to take you a little bit further back, Tony, please. We were talking about the salt circuit. There's something that makes my hair stand on end when I hear you guys raced ex-Formula One cars on a salt circuit. And this wasn't just a rumor, this is a fact.
No, that's a fact. I mean, but the thing is, as Jurgen said earlier, if we knew what those cars are worth today, we wouldn't have raced with it on a salt track. We wouldn't have sold it. But the thing is, it was there those days. I mean, as lots of other things. But just one thing that I must mention to you is the name was given by Gerry Jacobs from Total. He was a guy that stood up in the meeting and said, that is the name of the track. And I didn't have anything to say about it because it happened. That's it.
Is Patrick frozen?
Patrick is frozen now. I think he's frozen. Yeah.
I think you went to the Salt Lake.
We know it's cold in Cape Town, but not that cold.
He's stuck because he believes
Yes. So while we wait for Patrick, let's continue in his absence. And Jurgen, take us through to the first days when you guys raced at the Tony Rust Raceway, and what was the dices like, and who was the guys that you guys were up against?
Look, I only joined later because I was in South Africa. I only returned in '84, and we built sort of a Sierra XR8, which was very heavy, all the fire putty and stuff. And it was called the Geezer because it overheated. But eventually it came right. I think a couple of races, I think my most standout race sort of was when the two rovers were there from Dion de Waal and what's his name again?
What was the other guy? John.
Ray Brooks.
Yes.
Ray Brooks. Yeah. When they were there, I think that was phenomenal. The two sprint races and endurance race. Nice dices. It was phenomenal. I think the time when Muchacho still raced the Alpha, it was also very competitive. And actually, I remember all the other guys. I'm like Richard's dad, Ronald was the escort. And,
yes.
And I see the great photos that's Barden's putting up. So, I don't know if you guys can see the photos that that Barden is putting up, but I think that the current photo at the moment is at Killarney, but that's definitely you.
Yeah, that's
there we
that's
go.
an animal. That was still the animal. And it behaved like an animal. The only way you can drive it, Willie Hammond told me, is with the accelerator. You don't do too much with the steering. Accelerate the car. So that's what you do. But it was a phenomenal car with a very, very nice 302 Boss engine. This was fighting against the big boys. You use 10% of the budget they have. It was a difficult season and a very expensive one. This Mustang here.
It's a beautiful car. Eh? It's a beautiful
It is
car.
a beautiful car. It was a very good car as well. Jan Kutsi actually helped me with it. But Jan was an excellent driver and he could drive anything. So all he told me is, get in and drive. And I told him, geez, this thing understeers too much. He says, go.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Until Jan sort of left us and we, softened the car up in the front, and we actually had a couple of good races.
Okay, and Dawie, on to you, because when Patrick and I, when we obviously plan the shows and we have a calendar set out and that, and Patrick said to me, "No, Dawie, all of you has got a love affair with Tony Rust circuit." I said to him, Dawie, all of it. And that's when I actually called you also. So take us through the love affair, Dawie.
Yeah, okay. You can see the little yellow car there in the corner. That is actually a Owen Ashley supercar that came with those lethargic old 8-valve Opel engines. And ex-Capetonian, ex-Namibia, and he's back in Namibia now, Mike Lotte. Him and Owen had a huge argument one day, and he told Owen that he's going to build one of these cars, or take one of these cars and make it really fast. So what actually happened is he put a Toyota twin-cam turbo engine in the car. Very much, Owen even phoned me and started screaming and shouting at me. And I said to him, look, I've got nothing to do with it. But anyway, but the car was built, and we raced it very successfully. And I was involved in a fight with a guy with a triple rotor at Pakisa. And I just thought to myself, you know what, screw this. We're going to put a 3-liter turbo Supra engine in this car. And I sent it to Mike in Namibia. And it actually eventually ended up spoiling the car. But he did the conversion, and he said to me, look, there's one thing that you have to do. I'm not going to send the car back. There's a racetrack in Witzenberg. I said, no, bullshit. Sorry for my English, but I didn't realize that there was a racetrack in Namibia. And I went and researched it a bit, and I found, the now iconic name, Tony Rust. And I was working for Subaru Southern Africa at that stage, and there was a guy that had sort of like a dealership, and I quickly arranged myself a dealer visit to Windhoek.
On the company expense.
So obviously the first thing that I had to go and do is to go and drive around the Tony Rust racetrack. And it was phenomenal, and I thought to myself, I have to go and race there. And anyway, fast forward a year or so, and the conversion on the car was done. And I flew up, and Mike Lotter got me there. And I did some testing there, and we were invited. I mean, a lot of people have told me before, the Namibians are the friendliest bunch on the planet. And you sort of like want to believe it, but if you don't experience it firsthand, you can't explain it to people. I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, we basically went and raced there. I think I raced there 3 or 4 times. I was invited there, and I was treated like royalty. It was fantastic. What we used to do, I've got a guy that helps me on my race called Petrus Moabello. We used to leave here at 3 o'clock on a Thursday morning, towing the race car all the way through Botswana to Windhoek, get there, and old Benny, the guys by the printing works, Mike, we used to get us there. We used to dyno the car there. Friday testing, Saturday the racing, Saturday night the after party. Sunday morning, back to South Africa, arrive here at about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, next morning, 6 o'clock, I'm at work. So it was experiences. But anyway, I see one of the guys that are actually watching the show. He said, no, we must say what we did.
I see it on the chat from the audience.
We did the race anti-clockwise every time. And, we did a bit of aerodynamics on the car for what we thought we knew. And the one Friday or whatever, one of the guys said to me, listen, just put this GPS in the car, and I strapped it with duct tape. But going over, anti-clockwise past the pits, I felt, wow, something's not right, because every time I go past there, I have to tap off because the car started wheel spinning. And we were running on like 13-inch slicks. But anyway, and I only realized afterwards the car was wheel spinning at about 280, 285 kilometers an hour. So that got our attention a bit. The speed we did that day was 298 before we hit the brakes. But the next time I went there, we did some other aero changes and stuff like that to try and keep the car on the ground, because we were sort of like slowly but surely wanting to take off. So we never put a GPS in the car again, but I'm pretty sure we went past that speed because we could keep it flat out in the next 2 events. But yeah, very exciting. We had some exceptional races there. Unfortunately, the competition wasn't that great at that stage, but I tried a lot to get a lot of the guys, even from Zimbabwe, because I've raced there as well, to come and race at the Tony Rust racetrack, because it's phenomenal. I mean, the experience is phenomenal. It's great. And I would love to come back again.
Yeah, I see there's a lot of comments about the hospitality in Namibia, and the one thing that I think that's renowned, and this is a PG show, is that there's a lot of Jurgenmeister involved in hospitality. That's the only thing I can remember from Windhoek and Tony Rust. But Richard and Derek, tell us, what is your involvement with Tony Rust? I'm like Patrick says, I think I'm the youngest here. So put us in the picture to understand, and don't compete with me, Richard. I'm the youngest.
Okay, I think that's debatable, but okay. I'm actually, fun fact is that I'm the same age as the Tony Rust racetrack. So Uncle Tony chose, wow, a good date to build that track. I'm currently the chairman of the Bentheim Motor Club, and yeah, we still busy just trying to develop and building forward. And because Namibia's got a very small population, Windhoek especially, or it's so much smaller than South Africa or any place in South Africa, it's just so much more challenging to build on a racetrack like that. But Uncle Tony them had an awesome layout. We don't really want to change anything layout ways, layout on the layout. I mean, all we want to just do currently is just increase some of the safety, and perhaps when funding is there again, maybe we can do a bit of resurfacing again. But the track is in good condition, and it's a lot of fun to race at this stage.
And I see Baron is putting up some photos of the current formulas that's being raced at the moment. I see there's even karting happening at the track. I've seen some videos also of spinning and some other disciplines also. Sorry, there's somebody that's commenting and I couldn't see who it was. Yes, sorry, Richard.
Yeah, no, we've got at the track, and that's what's nice is over the years, previous chairmen and ourselves, we've been able to develop a lot, and we're doing karting, we oval track racing, as well as drag racing on the Tony Rasta on the main straight. So basically, all kinds of motorsport take place there, and we did motorbikes. Motorbikes, unfortunately, there was a big crash, and it was stopped by the NMSF together with the FIA because of safety regulations that weren't up to standard. But after we got a grant now recently through the Namibian Motorsport Federation from the FIA, and we did some safety upgrades, and we're definitely going to apply and see if motorbikes are also going to be one of the codes that they're going to allow to race again. I must say that, and Dawie Olivier will know this, actually Tony and Uncle Jurgen as well, will know that this track is not for sissies. So it's, in a car already, it's something different. So I must tell you, on a motorbike, it's even scarier. But you need some big kahunas to be able to go around Tony this fast.
So we will come to that point, Richard, because I know Patrick touched on it earlier also. But to give Derek a chance, you've touched on the FIA, you've touched on funding, you've touched on the governing body. Derek, what's happening currently in Namibia in terms of the track and just motorsport generally?
Our part is the Motorsport Federation, and we administer the rules, regulations, permits, licenses, etc. in Namibia. And since 2015, when Jean Todt became president of the FIA, and he's in his last few months now, he made grants available to federations around the world. And the Namibian Motorsport Federation applied for grants from 2015. So they did a rally timing system first. Then they applied for safety equipment. And it was while we were applying for the safety equipment that the FIA spoke to us and said, look, you have a very nice track, but you need to make it a bit safer. So the federation decided to apply for a safety grant of 50,000 euros to do some work around the track. Now, in today's monetary terms, 50,000 euro, whilst it might sound a lot in Namibian rands or even more in Zimbabwe dollars, it doesn't do much. So we had to decide how the money could best be spent. And the first thing we looked at from the experiences that we had from racing, we realized that there's not much runoff around the circuit. So that was our priority. And we discussed it with the club and we said, look, we will widen the runoffs, make a width of runoff consistently right around the track, inside and outside. But it's going to take the club to repack the tires, etc., etc. So they all agreed, because part of this grant is donating labor, etc., etc. Because the less donations you get, they reduce the amount of the grant. So we went to work. Actually, the grant was delayed due to COVID, like many.
Seems Derek is stuck at the moment.
Did people all freeze up tonight?
Yeah, it seems like each one is getting a turn.
You touched on a subject there that I would like to elaborate on.
Please, Patrick.
Yeah, I think the weather is affecting my feed on this side, so apologies for disappearing every now and again. But between Richard, Dawie, and Jurgen, we're looking at the guys with the, let's call it the big kahunas around there. Richard, you're on a motorbike. Dawie in a plastic pig that doesn't like to go off in that scenery. And Jurgen, you took super saloons and West Bank cars around there. Coming down that
I think I
hill
was the
towards that
safest.
bottom, to get to the bottom of that hill flat out takes a very determined driver. I've walked around the outside there. The rocks are serious in size. You don't want to go off there. Unofficially, you've got a bike record of 103.098. Jurgen, I believe you have still got the fastest lap time around there in a car. Even the Mark Sternagel in the turbo BMW is credited with a 103.98. Dawie, I believe you've got the highest top speed ever down that straight.
Oh, yeah.
So that in itself is scary to go down there at 300 k's an hour. So between the three of you, I'm going to give each of you an opportunity now. Is that officially the scariest part of that track is going down that hill?
Yeah, most definitely, Uncle Patrick. That's by far the most scariest part of the track is going down the main straight and breaking there at the bottom corner, which at the end was called the West Bank corner, there where the oval track is. I've never really had a big off with a motorbike. I had a huge crash in a car, so maybe I was best suited on a motorbike. Sorry?
You got hurt in that accident. You spent quite a bit of time in hospital. That isn't Sunny in the background. That is the in the background there is the car that you actually had the accident with.
That's the car I had the accident with. Coming over the hill, I wasn't doing exactly the same speed as that very quick plastic yellow car. I was doing about 250 when I got to the bottom. There were no brakes, and unfortunately, I had to make a split-second decisions and put it in a slide, and it started rolling. And yeah, the rest is history.
You had also a very good off there with the Jaguar.
Yeah.
End of the split.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys off on that corner.
Yeah,
Jurgen,
that's actually a very popular corner.
Jurgen,
sorry? Yes.
Jurgen, did you ever have a big incident at the circuit?
No, I don't think so. No.
Take us around, Tony Rustin, in your West Bank car, the Telstar. That must be quite an experience in itself.
Look, it's very nice. It's I suppose you just have to be careful. It's like even Kaiser Motors. You don't want to go off with Kaiser Motors. I mean, your car's going to be destroyed forever. But it is a phenomenal track. The dip, No, it's very nice. I think so. I think Dawie can say the same. The speed on that track is very different, say, to East London or Killarney.
Yeah, look, the thing is, what I found is the last time I went there.
You started off on that salt track.
Yeah. Yes, I actually started off a long time ago with a Cortina that was on the high purchase still. And I drove at Jurgen's race. Dave Clapham was there. And I tried to follow him around the corner, and I went off the road into wherever. That was my first race here with the Cortina. And until I actually left for South Africa, I had a very nice little escort. Myself and Tony had a couple of good days. Sorry?
Yeah, we had a good time in Swakopmund.
Yes.
It was great.
I want to go back to the V6 Ford.
Yeah, Ford Escort V6. Not that heavily modified, but it was going very well, particularly on the surface. You didn't need too much power or torque and stuff like that. And I had to go to military service 3 months. And
sorry, guys. You seem to have a bit of a delay on
And my championship went with it. I think, Tony, you actually were champion then, no?
That was a long time ago. Let's not talk about that. Only enjoying it.
Yeah.
At that time, when you were racing that Escort, I was racing the BDA Escort, the 16-valve Cosworth motor in it, which I later sold. Yeah, I sold it to a guy in Swakopmund, and he just let it rot away. It's completely gone. It's completely rotten away. The engine, everything is gone.
And it's not so much fun.
Yeah, tell me about it. Then. Tell me about it. But so what I said earlier on, if we knew those days, we wouldn't have sold the things, We would have kept them.
Yeah, that's a good example. I had a BDI as well. We actually did the motor with Meissner and Cape Town. And I think I did 1.5 laps in practice, and the engine blew.
Sure.
One thing that I do want to mention is that we used to race the track when you, Jurgen, and so on raced, and Dawie as well. We went anti-clockwise, and nowadays they're racing it clockwise as well. And clockwise, it's slower than anti-clockwise.
It would be
because of that downhill thing. But you had the fastest time at the anti-clockwise period, and so it's different nowadays with the clockwise. Alan Martin of Walfish Bay, he's got the record, the fastest clockwise.
Okay.
Yeah, which also 68 point something, I think. Yeah. Michael knows better than me.
But the end of the straight must be a very different thing with that bend and the mountain in front of you.
It's but that's where you need the kahunas. I like it. I liked it all the time. Yeah.
Dawie, you were still commenting on that also earlier before. Before you got interrupted. Do you maybe want to complete what you wanted to say?
Yeah, what happened to me the last time I raced there, anti-clockwise coming down, as I hit the brakes, my left front control arm snapped. And yeah, it was at about 300 k's an hour. Sure. And afterwards, I basically just thought to myself, someone was watching over me, because if it was the right-hand front one, I mean, those graded tires that sort of like stops you from going into the bush and farming and whatever, is not on the left-hand side. So I sort of like crashed without hitting anything. And I ended up, and I think it was the first year after they made the runoff area in that bottom corner bigger. So I ended up in the tires, but not very hard. So I could sort of like drive out and sort of like get the car stopped. But that was one of those, pinching washers moments in my racing career. I've had it through. And that was one of them. I just thought to myself, if I had to hit anything at like 300 k's an hour, that would be me. But anyway.
Yeah. So Derek, before you got interrupted, so do you maybe want to finish off also what you wanted to say, especially on the safety aspect?
Yeah. I think when I last spoke, I was talking about the runoffs and the shoulder on the track, and what I was busy saying was, before we started work, we got an engineer to come and do an assessment on the track itself to see where we stood. Before we decided to excavate, just in case we needed to prioritize something else. And they told us that that track was built exceptionally well back in the day. And I think Tony mentioned to me that when they built that track, they didn't think the surface would last longer than 5 years. Well, that surface is still there today. And the recommendations the engineers made to us was to show up the edges of the track in order to retain the foundation, because the track was so well built. And as part of the grant, the one thing we're doing is to replace all the curbing inside and outside right around the track. But we were chatting about the lap times, and I'm going to challenge all the racing drivers here today and those that are listening and watching, when the track is reopened, I've driven around there with the construction work taking place, and I can tell you some of those corners are going to be a lot faster than they were back in the day. And I wouldn't be surprised if the lap record of that track gets broken again with the way the track looks now, because some of those corners, they don't look so daunting anymore. You know, I think the challenge will be to stay on the black stuff, but you're going to drive with a different mindset now.
I can add to that is that currently we've got in the turns we've got no less than 6 meters runoff, so it's so much more wider. Back in the day, and everyone will remember, there were some turns that didn't have more than 1 meter or 2 meter runoff areas. Now we've got in the turns about 6 meters. On the straights we have 3 meters, so it's much wider, the runoff areas, and I think so much more safer. So yeah, I agree with what Uncle Derek is saying, is that many of the drivers are going to just feel so much more confident at going around there. I also want to just say that we are currently also running it anti-clockwise again. About 3 years ago, we started running it clockwise just to slow it down a bit, because it was becoming dangerous, because some of the cars were becoming big. That BMW of Mark Sternacher was one of them, and then the cars were being built to catch him, and not everyone, including myself, thought about upgrading brakes. We just thought about upgrading engines, and it became a bit too quick, and that's why we swapped it around and did it clockwise, just to try and slow it down a bit. But the guys became very quick again. Someone like Michael Rist, Uncle Tony's son, was able to do exactly the same times the opposite way around as what he did anti-clockwise. So of the top drivers that really knew what they were doing, because remember, the track, if we think about it, the track was about 40% car, 60% car, 40% driver, because it was a power track, and then we swapped it around, and it was the other way around. I would say 60% driver, 40% car. But yeah, so what would be interesting is if the track is done and all the safety upgrades, we want to do it, we want to alternate the clockwise, anti-clockwise. We want to do it like that. So that's the plan.
So I smell a reunion coming and also a big gathering. So, Mr. Ras, please comment to that.
Now, what's happening at the racetrack is great. I must really compliment the guys involved in the NMSF. You know, when we founded the NMSF, I was the first president of the NMSF, and we tried from FIA to get grants, and those days there were no such thing as a grant from the FIA. But when Derek is now there, they got guys, they really managed it, and I'm very glad about that, because the track is really good, and my son's racing now, and my grandson's going to start racing, so it's great. And but I have to tell you people now, unfortunately I have to leave, because I still got to go through a roadblock, and it's curfew time, 9 o'clock, so I got to go out to get to the farm and through the roadblock before curfew time is up. So I got to leave you guys, and I'm really glad. Thank you very much for this honor to be here with all you guys. It's good to see guys like Jurgen again, and Dawie, and all you guys. Yeah, you know, it's just great being among motorsport guys. And thanks God for that.
Very good seeing you. Thanks.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna.
Okay.
It will not be the last time, Tony. We would love to have you back again somewhere in the future. Maybe when the next year, 2022, when it's the 50th celebration of the circuit, we'll do another program, and we'll get even more of the old manner back on it again.
That's great. I'm there anytime for motorsport, anytime. Right, guys, thank you very much. And
Thank
to
you.
all the listeners, I see Bradley and
Travel safe.
also, have a great evening and enjoy yourselves. Bye.
Yes.
Ciao.
Right.
Jurgen, now you're the senior man on the screen, so you have to move your way.
Sorry? I can't
You
hear.
are the senior man on the screen. You are the senior
Very
man on
much
the
so.
screen now, so we have to.
I think my mind.
Jurgen, we know you in South, a very talented race driver, and you know Olivier, You're a Telstar in the West Bank cities. You're a legend in the super saloons down here. But you are from Witzenberg. You are part of the Tony Rist legacy.
Yes, absolutely. I'm proud of it. Yeah. Yes.
Well, introduction in Witzenberg. You were there. We saw many in Paul at the time. And well, I asked you the question earlier today. Which would you consider to have been?
Sorry, Patrick, I can't understand you. I can't quite hear you.
We can't hear you, Patrick.
Signal is bad.
Jurgen,
Yes.
Sweet. Your career.
No, Patrick. It doesn't seem to be working. Shame. I must apologize on Patrick's behalf, and I know he's very frustrated because
I'm sure.
he's having technical difficulties tonight. So where do we go? What is next for the track? What is planned? What is there for the future? And how do we bring Jurgen, Bentheim, and Dawie Olivier back to the racetrack? Richard and Derek. And what does the future hold for Namibian motorsport?
Yeah, it would be awesome to have these legends back on our track, even if it's just for a once-off fun event. I know that Dawie Olivier just mentioned that he would love to come back, and I'm definitely going to take him up on that. Uncle Jurgen, I'm not sure if he races anymore, but it would be so great to have him back even if it's as a once-off. But let's see, maybe we convince him to get into a car for one last time. And there's some of the other guys like Uncle Llewellyn, Anthony, and those guys, my dad himself, that I would love to see back on track one more time. And yeah, so, and the future I think looks bright. Unfortunately, as with everything else at this stage, COVID has delayed us tremendously. It's not only stopped us from racing, it's also impacted the economy so badly, and a lot of the competitors now have to park their cars for a bit. Even if we open up tomorrow, some of the competitors wouldn't be able to race immediately because they need to recover financially as well. So it's going to be difficult. It put us back quite a few years now again. We were making very, very good progress, but unfortunately we put back a bit. But that's not going to stop us though. We're going to continue. We're going to keep working, and we're going to keep praying and hope for this whole motorsport in Namibia just to keep growing.
And Derek, what is your take?
Well, we want to get the work done at the circuit because there is a certain time in which we have to complete these grants, and we've been given an extension because of COVID so that we can move on to the next thing. You mentioned what's the future for motorsport in Namibia. It is going from strength to strength. I can happily say that, I always used to say, if you want to be a parliamentarian, then you learn in motorsport because it will teach you well. But I can happily say that for the past few years, the politics in motorsport in Namibia is almost non-existent, which shows the harmony amongst everyone and how everybody's pulling in the same direction. And I think a lot has also got to do, that has a lot to do with the current members of the federation, not to take anything away from the older members such as Tony, who was there when it started. But I think it's just the forward thinking and the forward planning. And yes, it would be nice to have a commemoration event there. And I want to touch on something else quickly. Witzenberg Motor Club at the moment is the only club hosting the drag national championship. And I haven't told them this yet, but I'm going to tell them here tonight. I just recently attended the FIA Africa Regional Conference in Kenya and got to see the WRC as well. But at that conference, the FIA made a fully electronic, state-of-the-art drag timing system available to the African federations. But it was only for those that do not have drag racing because they want to get the races off the streets in some of the countries. So I spoke nicely to them, and they're giving us a system. So we will have a brand new wireless state-of-the-art timing system at the drag strip at Tony Rust. We're just waiting for it to be shipped to Namibia.
No, that's excellent. And to all the viewers out there, if you want the latest news in motorsport, this is the show where you get it. I know Richard was thinking like this, like, what is Derek going to say?
and I'm so
good
glad I
news.
was listening in.
Yeah, he was sweating there for a moment.
Almost, yeah. So yeah, I can't wait and for us to our regulations to just relax so that we can host the drag event. That's probably one of the first things we want to do. As we were busy with the safety upgrades, actually the main straight where we host the drags is already done. So if we, as soon as the country opens and we allowed to be more people, gather more people again, then we're going to test out that new system.
Yeah.
That's excellent. And I know there's a bit of a camaraderie also between the Cape Town drag guys and the Windhoek or the Namibian drag guys. There's normally some events where the guys go up and some goes down and vice versa. So it's excellent, but it will be good to see Dawie in a race car again because I know he loves to climb hills. And I remember Dawie from the Ceres hill climb days. So
that's why he's fast on Tony Rust.
Yeah, that's
why he's fast on Tony Rust.
No, for sure. So I don't know if Patrick is back. I see he's in and out of here.
I'm trying, guys, but I don't know whether you can hear me. So apologies. I don't know. I can only blame the weather for it tonight. I don't know what the reason is. It's a pity. I'd love to chat to all of you more, but I'm still got this bee in my bonnet about Jurgen Bentheim and all these years of pleasure he gave us in various motor cars. But I need to ask the question, Jurgen, when you were racing at Tony Rust in the Animal at the time, we mentioned Tony Rust and the guys racing Formula One cars. You had a very special car that you raced for a very long time. Do you regret ever getting rid of that?
Yes, every day. Every day, just to keep it would be nice. And I actually stripped it out to put everything into the Telstar. So it was a shame.
Take us through that era of the super saloons. We often make that comment that Namibia and Killarney as such had a good relationship. We had a very good relationship with the rallyists. Well, I have still got a good relationship with the rallyists from Namibia. What I never realized, Eric, and you can vouch for this now, digging into the old results, I actually discovered that a guy by the name of Bux Visser wasn't just a regular in the Western Cape. He actually won rallies in the Western Cape.
Yes. When you spoke earlier about Jurgen being the more senior one here, I was just thinking if I wasn't second in line here, because I remember marshalling on the Wagon Wheels rally, which was sponsored by Total back in the day. Bux Visser, them all came to rally. I mean, even Dippies and Lawrence Koch and all those guys, they were regulars in Cape Town.
Well, even the man smiling in the corner there, Richard Slamet, is the two of you made quite a combination in the Western Cape for a while.
Yeah, we won. We also won in the Cape, yes.
We did.
I laugh so when I rally with the Namibian competitors, and they sometimes forget I'm still South African, and they put the Namibian flag next to my name, and I have to tell them take it off. I'm not Namibian.
Maybe I've citizen support.
That happened with me, I know.
Yeah.
Jurgen, we know about you. We know about some of the big names from Namibia. But from your perspective, please tell us who were the opposition you had in those days. I know some names, but I cannot relate to them. I never saw them race as such. But people, a name that comes up with me all the time, and yes, Clint will have comments about it because he drove an Alfa Romeo, was Mickey Thompson. There's a name that has stuck in my head since the early 80s. I think he had one of the most beautiful Alphas to ever run a Tony Rist. A name like Muchacho Nashville. Somehow I recall him being on the track and in rallying. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Richard, you could possibly give me the answer to that.
Unfortunately, I can't. I know that he was on circuit. I'm not 100% sure about the rallying. I know that when he raced, my dad it's in the same year as my dad raced. Uncle Jurgen was at that stage based in South Africa, so he came down to Namibia often to come and race here as well. But I know my dad and Machacho, they raced in the same year as what the late Lucas Ipandoka also raced. And yeah, it was fun times. Uwe Kessler, some of the fast guys, Uwe Kessler, Willie Van Rijn was fast, Jan Goos was quick back then. So there's quite a few guys and legends in motorsport. So all of you can mention these names and each one would have an awesome story to tell.
I have a trick question though, and not even...
Lyman Anthony, a couple of them.
I have a trick question. Tony Rist couldn't even answer me that question. Who was the first to actually win a championship on the Tony Rist Raceway?
Can't answer that because I wasn't there. I joined 2 years later.
I don't know. I was probably still in a walking ring or on a tricycle back then. I wouldn't know.
No, I can't answer that.
Probably Uncle Tony because he was there. Not him.
No,
then I'm not sure.
It wasn't him.
Yeah.
Then I'm not sure. I'm going to definitely do research.
I like the sound of that because now we're getting somewhere. Now I can get some information before we get to the next.
No, but Richard mustn't come and ask me because I told you earlier those boxes they threw away.
Derek, you went there to get order in the house, so you must be able to collect all this information now.
I have. There is a database. Everything's on file from the day I stepped in there in August 2017. But prior to that, we don't know what happened to the records. Yeah, like with this program, you were scratching for things, and then we found bits and pieces all over the show. But if it's not for the memories of those that were competing in those days, I think we would have lost. I think we lost all that information. So, which is actually sad. It is sad.
Yeah, we must remember that main circuit racing at Tony Rist was dormant for many years. I don't want to put a number to it, but I would say close to 10 years. There was no main circuit racing, and it was just oval track and go-karts at that stage until actually Michael Rist and a few guys, they took the track again and started building up again together with Christian Llewellyn. And that's when circuit racing started again and grew to where it is now.
An element that I find very encouraging from the Namibian perspective is, Richard, you're part of it, and that is the family legacy that grows into the sport. The Slamet family have been around for quite a few generations, and the same goes for the Rist family. And that to me is the survival part of any circuit, any sport, is the continuation that you get from generation to generation. That is what protects the legacy of the sport. Is that would you agree with that?
100%, 100%, Uncle Patrick. I'm fortunate enough to say that I think we are the first family that's had 3 generations on the circuit, with my dad having raced first, and then me and my son that started at a very, very young age. He got special dispensation to start at only 13 years of age. And he's now 16 and one of our top guys at the moment. So I'm very glad to say that. But then there's guys like the Goos family with Jan Goos and his son Melvin and Leon, both big drivers. And Mike, Tony, now Michael Rist, and I think they're going to become the second family to have 3 generations with Michael's son, Wayne, just now recently getting a car that was built by the Martin family, by Alan Martin and Zachary Martin, was built especially as a tribute to the Rist family to continue this generational racing that we've got going at Tony Rist. So also awesome gesture from the Martins, which are also a huge family in motorsport in Namibia. And although they're in Walfish Bay, so involved at the Tony Rist and at in circuit racing.
That's something that I always find astonishing about Namibia. When you guys say you're a family, it sounds like you're living next door. But what people don't don't realize is that visiting the next door neighbor is a 200k trip. And coming back early from a party would be just before sunrise, you'll leave for home. You guys have absolutely no respect for distance. Going for a race meeting at Swakop, you talk about Swakop and Windhoek as though it's next door. It's not. So amazing the dedication that the people put into the sport.
Definitely. We've got, like I said, the Martin family travels for every single race. They travel down with 2 cars from Walfish Bay, which is over 300, almost 400 kilometers away. They would leave early morning, raced all day. Unfortunately, can't stay for prize giving because then they have to head back to Walfish Bay. And they only a few. We've got in the go-karts, we've got quite a few of the guys. And then also in the drags, I see that Bradley has mentioned a few times, he's mentioned the drags. It's just so, it's the same commitment that we get from there, because we've got guys from all over Namibia, and especially the coast, traveling to Windhoek, and then from Windhoek traveling to the coast when there's nationals. So yeah, that's, unfortunately, we have, or fortunately, we're not scared of distance. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot going on in one town, and we don't have a lot of population in one town, so we need to support one another in different towns.
Patrick, if I may add to that, are you there?
Yes, I'm listening.
The family aspect of motorsport in Namibia has grown. That legacy has been carried on through many codes, even through motorcycling, and we always have a laugh when someone inquires about something or applies for a racing license, and then we need to first check, is it senior or junior? In some cases, it's both, and like with rallying, you or any form of motorsport, it's not unusual to see the grandchildren on the same podium as the fathers and the grandfathers, etc., or even granddaughters, and it's and I think it's because the motorsport family is so closely knit in Namibia, despite the distances that you were talking about. So it is good to see.
Yeah.
Something I would love to touch on, Derek, and I'm not going to put you on the spot with this at all, but I think
you always do.
with me.
He's going to.
But you will agree with me. A guy like Jurgen Bentheim, in my opinion, he's not part of the sport. He is an integral monument of the sport from Namibia. And this program to me represents exactly what I'm trying to say about that. I much rather talk to the man while he's still around and applaud him for what he's done in the sport than speak to him afterwards when he's gone and try and build a name around him then. But I don't see people like him and Jurgen, ek gebruik jou nooit as 'n voorbeeld. I don't see people like him getting proper recognition for what they've done in the sport. A Tony Rist to me should be, while he's still around, honor the man for what he's done for the sport. I see that as a problem not only in Namibia but everywhere. Would you agree with me that more can be done to recognize these people?
Yes, I think we touched on this in a discussion we had early in the week. The first thing that in the strategy plan for the federation was to get the administration side of things running, and to get motorsport to a point and to fit into the new world, as we call it, and that has been done. And one of the things we discussed, and it's in our strategy plan, is to give recognition to all those who played their bit in motorsport in Namibia, because I think my colleagues agree with what I'm about to say, is that we just had a very sad case now with Lucas. The day Lucas passed on, we had to scrabble around for information and give the man the recognition that he actually deserved. And, I always say, rather say something good while the people are still breathing than just stand alongside the graveside and not try and say something. You need to do it while we're all still around. And yes, that is on the cards. We had lengthy discussions with the Sports Commission to get Namibian colours, because with the new government, etc., things were changed, and there's a whole lot of processes you need to go through. And they've given us the go-ahead to establish federation colours and recognitions, etc., etc. So we're busy with that at the moment, and hopefully in the not too distant future, that is something we can bestow upon everybody that played a part in motorsport in Namibia.
Rich,
Patrick Rosen again.
Guys, I'm battling this side. I don't know when I'm speaking, when you can hear me, when you
Now
cannot
we can
hear
hear
me. So,
Stop
Dawie,
sitting on the wires.
Yeah. Dawie, I would have loved to have chatted to you tonight a bit more, but I have to rub it in. You're going to have to do a higher top speed when you go back. So what's on the cards there?
Yeah, probably as a lot of the people know, a couple of years ago I had a bit of a oopsie in Cape Town. At also very, very high speed. So we took a while to recover a little bit because a tree jumped in front of us. But we all recovered now. And slowly but surely, obviously, the COVID thing is also hitting us a bit with the business and stuff like that. But anyway, we're surviving and we're busy building a car again. So yeah, once we're up and running again, we'll go racing again. What else is there to live for but racing?
It's Patrick frozen.
He's in Witzenberg.
Yeah. Is he talking? I can't. So Dawie, that is excellent news. But I think with Patrick's frustrations and we had a good session tonight when we're over our also already. We definitely need to have a follow-up show in order to close out this. I know Patrick has prepared quite a few tricky questions like he used to, and I don't know if Patrick is back now.
Yeah, I am. For I don't know how long, but I'm there.
Exactly. So I think we need to call it a night.
It's Derek that's picking on me tonight. He's trying to keep me
Listen,
quiet.
Listen, you've been blaming me ever since I met you, so it's nothing new to me.
Uncle Patrick, just a suggestion, perhaps switch off your camera. Then doesn't take as much bandwidth, and then maybe the sound will come through a bit better. Just try that, Pat.
You've got a perfect face for radio, so we're not going to miss anything.
That's a
I must take my chances.
I can look. We've well, you don't have that many years now, so now.
Who are you talking to?
I think he's talking to you, but you have the
to
hair.
Me? No, I still got my hair. I still got my hair. The only difference is the older I get, the faster I was. That's the only difference.
Yeah, but gentlemen, I think it was a good evening. We got through quite a bit. I think we need to close it out for now because Patrick is continually struggling. I do thank everybody for the time, and it's exciting to see that we, as South Africans and Namibians, we can collaborate. We have legends like Jurgen and Dawie on the show tonight. I won't call Derek a legend because I grew up in front of him. And then Richard and I is with the younger crowd.
The future legend.
The future legend supposed to be. I don't know much about that. I'm talking to myself, but in any case. So, and definitely thank you to the audience. I see we had lots of participation here, lots of comments to some guy called Foxy from some Italian guy here in Cape Town.
Yeah, we know. I know who that is.
The Italian guys. and then thank you
I
for
really
the
don't think.
So yeah, I would like to close out the show on this high, and thanks everybody for your participation. And then until next time, thank you very much. It's been a true honor. And have a
Thanks
good
for
evening.
having us, and it was.
Thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you very much.
Get my regards to
Bye-bye.
your dad, please. Bye.
Sorry. I will, Uncle Jurgen. Thank you. It was nice meeting you, Uncle Jurgen.
Yeah, man.